So for our first faction war game, we're playing as the vampire counts for the whole entirety of the faction war, and we're up against Happy Puppy's Tomb Kings, specifically playing as Khalida, I think. And yeah, we're gonna have to see how it goes. We have a Carronade here. We have a bunch of sirens in case we need to rush. And it looks like that is indeed going to be the case. We're seeing a huge Ushabti force here coming in from Happy Puppy. And that's going to keep my my bombers back for quite a while. This, what's it? These, the artillery pieces too. We'll need to find a way to deal with them. But I think our cannon should be able to take out the Screaming Skull catapults fairly efficiently. As for these Ushabti, we have Luther. We have a lot of bats. And we have our handguns too. There are carrion nearby that we have to worry about. But so far it looks like things are going pretty well with Luther Harkin getting a pick on some Ushabti. Continuing our advance too. And as long as he doesn't get sniped out by these guys, I think we'll be fine. Let's see here, it looks like they're not turning to fire though, and Luther will be able to maneuver around, but that is Khalida sort of keeping him bogged down there. I think slow coming down too, and it's just important that we advance as quickly as we can. Luther's taking a lot of damage too, getting bogged down by some bats here. We're going to need to pull through our infantry here to save Luther, and there's also a Lich Priest of Death. Getting a tiny bit overextended. Perhaps we can get a volley in on him with our handguns. Maybe shoot him with Luther, and I think we're good. And that's a pretty nice start. Taking out the Tomb Kings, taking out some of their leadership is great. And there we go. Looks like the Lich Priest is going down now. Our bombers are getting in a lot of damage, and now it's just a summon on top of. On top of these Ushabti is what we need. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And they do manage to go down. And we'll be able to stop them from firing away at my bats and everything else. So that's a good start. Looks like our rush is performing quite well so far. And once we can get our... let's see. Once we can get our sirens on the back too, that'll be great. But, whoops, we're actually overextending with Luther a tiny bit. We'll have to pull him back. And, I think we just want to regroup him with our sirens. That way we'll be able to throw down a big old heal on top of him. And the sirens too, which will be great. Next up, we're just dancing around with Luther to keep these Ushabti, sort of spinning around, making it hard for them to actually get their shots off against him. A little bit of juking too won't hurt. And that should be able to negate most of the damage there. Some ammunition on these bombers means that they'll be able to continue tearing apart the Tomb King's infantry here. And our sirens are looking to do pretty well. They've torn apart the cavalry of the Tomb Kings here, and they'll be able to move in onto the Ushabti now. This is why it's very important to make sure you have. Magic damage as the Tomb Kings, otherwise the sirens will be able to get in a lot of damage. Now the Ushabti have changed targets, which means that we will be able to move in with Luther now. And the Gunnery White wants to be moving into the fight too. He's going to be focusing Khalida, while the Banshees slow down the Ushabti. And we should be good. Let's see here. We just really want to make sure that Luther is not taking too much damage here from Khalida. She does do quite a bit of damage, and we don't have an overcast in the heck. But I think as long as we keep the Ushabti down, we should be good. More sirens are available, which means we can disengage with Luther now. And this pistol summon should be able to help out a lot too. Carrion are tearing apart my handguns. And at this point, we could bring in Luther to save them, and We don't really need to, though. I think it's much more important that we actually shut down these Ushapti, since carrying in the late game are not especially scary. We're going to be providing ammunition to Luther now, just so that his pistol fire will continue to go. And that's because of the new nerfs that have affected his ammunition. Means that he will run out by the end of the game if you don't supply him with the gunnery white. Aside from that, though, no immediate effects, since it doesn't give him his more powder passive. But that's not extremely important here. Usually you would want to use the extra powder earlier, but doesn't matter here, as we do manage to pull out the win against the Tomb King. So yeah, a very defensive ranged heavy build from the Tomb Kings. We managed to counter it by mixing in a little bit of rush into our build. If I had gone for a double carronade type strategy, or any more defensive build with mortars or so on, then that would have lost to this type of build. But going for that nice middle ground meant that we were able to rush, and indeed pull out a win there. With very nice damage on Luther, and very nice damage on these two handgun units. Just getting shots in on Khalida seemed to do the job. So this next game is Vampire Coast against Lizardmen. We have roughly even-sized armies. We're expecting a lot of skinks from him. Immediately, we're just advancing to secure this hilled position here, and we have our dogs at the ready. Catch out any of these guys. Like, there is a Skink Priest of Heavens with Wind Blast that we'll have to be careful about. And see, and Gorok too, who can be pretty threatening. Ooh, it looks like some chameleon skinks have revealed themselves though. Our scurvy dogs can collapse in on them as they are unsupported. Wind Blast might come down, and there are cavalry coming in too. So a quick disengage should put our scurvy dogs back into safety. For our formation here, we're just taking a nice safe position where we'll be able to start shooting these Saurus spears with our deck gunners. In fact, I will be shooting the Saurus instead. Now, the Skink Priest is a bit scary because he has the magic damage to kill my Sirens, but we can mostly just stay safe here. By just keeping a good distance away while our deck gunners get a lot of damage in on the far flank. Meanwhile, Luther can just get some shots in on the chameleon skinks. Should be a pretty good trade. And it also means that the skinks, to push Luther away, will have to get into range of my handguns. And they get some pretty good damage. So as long as we keep this force of the Lizardmen occupied with our strong flank, we should be just fine. There we go, we're looping around, making it hard for him to advance. We have our Sirens at the ready. And a sort of badly timed engage from my opponent means that these Saurus, or these skink cohorts, will be getting killed pretty quickly before any support can actually move in. I'm moving my scurvy dogs in along the back now. Continue pressuring the Lizardmen. The Sirens are nearby too to jump in whenever the opportunity presents itself. And we have managed to rout off our first unit from the Lizardmen. Our front line is holding quite strong. And we're going to be pulling back our zombies now to provide some gaps in our line, which will let it'll let our handguns shoot a little bit better. See, they're getting in a lot of damage on the Saurus warrior. It's actually on the verge of routing, and a zombie summon in the back should be able to finish the job. Some chameleon skinks reveal themselves in the back, and there are Saurus moving in along the side, but we have our Sirens moving into position there to take them out. They're pretty slow, the Sirens are fast, and they'll be able to do well. As for these Saurus spears that have engaged my front line, we are shooting them with the handguns now. We positioned our zombie mobs to actually expose one of their flanks to the handguns, and with a bit of bomber fire, I think that's going to be the end of them. Which is another good engagement. Our caster is still doing well, but we want to keep her away from Gorok. Gorok's a pretty scary force. He'll be able to snipe her out quite easily. And we definitely don't want that to be happening. Now, our scurvy dogs, once again, running distraction along the back, doing pretty well, but taking a bit more damage than I would have hoped. We'll just disengage with them. And we just want to use our dogs to delay the lizardmen lines as much as possible. Buys us a lot of time to get our shots in, which is what we need to do to win the game. Speaking of, Gorok has moved in, but he's walking into a lot of handgun fire now and deck gunners. The deck gunners will reduce any block he has from his shield, and the handgunners will get in a ton of damage. There we go, we see Gorok already at half HP, is in a very beat up situation, and a charge in from Luther will likely spell the end for him. But we'll have to see how that fight goes, and keep an eye on Luther to make sure that he doesn't die unnecessarily. So there we go, he does indeed win his duel against Gorok. A strong charge manages to do it, and now another unit of Sword Spears are trickling into the front line. So yeah, I think mostly that's just thanks to our delay tactics, using the scurvy dogs and so forth. It means that our guns are just focusing on whichever units manage to sneak by, and then routing them off before more support can come in. So next up, we're summoning more zombies in the backline. They'll be able to disrupt these chameleon skinks, and if the chameleon skinks disengage, their pistols can fire into the backs of the Saurus warriors. Our scurvy dogs will continue chasing off units where they can, but because the lizardman is spending a lot of time just defending his backline, we can play more safe with the scurvy dogs and they'll be just fine. So there we go, a big rout from the lizardman. Is great for us. It looks like Gorok has gone down. And it's just some chameleon skinks left, and the scurvy dogs will likely be able to take them out. No problem. Without Saurus support, our sirens will be especially strong too. And if we just chase off these chameleon skinks with our deck gunners, then we won't have to worry about them sneaking into our backline. Now there are some Umbral Tide here that we're firing in, but we managed to push them back with our dogs once again. And you can see that the longer we manage to keep these scurvy dogs alive, the better, the more we can distract the lizardmen. Of course, we could have suicided them in onto the Umbral Tide, but generally not recommended due to the fact that that the scurvy dogs can be a lot more effective in situations like this. There we go. We can chase off some skink cohorts here. We'll use Luther to get rid of these Saurus warriors. And at this point, our deck gunners have been firing so much, we're actually sort of worrying about our ammo consumption. Our handguns are still at high ammo though, so they'll be firing as much as they can. But the deck gunners will really only want to be firing at priority targets. In fact, we'll even take them off fire at will to make sure that that's the case. And most of the damage at this point is going to be Luther routing off troops, scurvy dogs chasing them. And then if anything decides to actually dive into the back, of course, we have our deck gunners. And with that, it's a pretty nice game. GG to our opponent. And yeah, pretty scary force, but he was never really able to get into our backline. Our deck gunners used most of their ammunition. We just shot the Saurus up a whole ton, getting in pretty good value there with our handguns using their support fire to make sure that they get routed. Sirens were very strong on the flank since the skink priest couldn't actually get there to wind blast, except for I think once. And from there it was just a solid win. Luther too, his terror helped out a lot, and of course the heroes, the scurvy dogs, distracting half of the lizardmen forces for a very long time. So for this next game, we're playing as Vampire Coast against the Skaven of Zero, and we've decided to rush due to the map and due to the new Skaven meta. We have Silostra for a whole ton of summons to parade through their back line while we break their front line. And yeah, there we go. That's the strategy. We just want to push through as quickly as we can. We have crabs, and we have these deck dropper handguns, who can't really advance too far because of all the skirmishers that could exist. But they should be able to hit the weapon teams once our front line actually gets engaged. So that's the plan. Let's get a move on. Poison Wind is coming down. Jezzails are firing into my bats, so we'll have to pull back with them. And we just have to get this engage in as quickly as possible. We don't have any healing, but there aren't a ton of troops that want to be healed anyways. So we're sort of okay with that. Our dogs will want to rush into the forest to fight off these wolf rats. And the Poison Wind mortars, they're getting in their damage, same with the Jezzails, but they can't get so much in before the fighting actually happens. These rotting Prometheans should be able to survive. Looks like they will be able to. And it's just going to be a dive in on these Night Runners. Silostra can now move in. With her high speed, she should be able to get engaged at about the same time as everything else. We're just rushing in as quickly as possible. The rotting Prometheans get dived in on by the Brood Horrors. Not great. But let's see, it looks like there's just 2 wolf rats here. Not especially scary. And we should be able to get the engage on soon. Our deck dropper handguns will be playing very safe, just sitting far back where they can. And we want to, we really want to break this front line as quickly as possible. Even with our extremely slow moving troops here. We're going to summon the Knights Errant now. And we're going to bring them right on top of the Natty Boobos. Just to make sure that they don't kill all of my crabs. And there we go. It looks like my deck droppers are having the intended effect. Stopping these guys from... stopping these guys from participating in the main fight. Wolf rats are pushing back further now, which is good. And nice. It looks like we do manage to get our knights on top of the Poison Wind mortars. There we go. Things are going okay. But Balance of Power doesn't like us. And that's because this hero squad here is still extremely threatening. Don't have a whole ton to actually kill them. Except for these rotting Prometheans, maybe. We'll have to see. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have our deck gunners too. And you know what? I think our deck gunners can probably move in to help with that fight now. That's probably a good situation for them. Meanwhile, our wolf rats, or our scurvy dogs, will be chasing away what they can. Our knights are doing well. We've successfully bogged down all of the heroes here. Skaven backline is collapsing. Soon their summons should be gone too. Same with our summons though. So this isn't gonna be a walk in the park. The Poison Wind mortars are still alive also. And we'll want to try to get on top of them. Wolf rats are hitting up my bombers, getting in a lot of damage. Silostra is getting pinned down by the Brood Horrors again. We'll want to disengage from those guys, bring in our halberds to support, and use Silostra mainly to to deal with all the infantry here. See, a unit of rotting Prometheans should be able to stall too. And that should be good. Only problem right now is that these wolf rats are still running amok everywhere. But we've bought enough space for our deck gunners. Or our bats to actually start shooting on Throt. So that's going to be the next order of action. The assassin getting pretty low. And looks like the deck gunners should be doing okay. We'll have to see. Meanwhile, we have our scurvy dogs running into position. And this game could very well just come down to these deck gunners sniping out Throt. And it looks like they do manage to get him to rout, which is absolutely amazing. The assassin doesn't have a whole ton of AP. So it's imperative that we chase off Throt here. If we can get him off the field, then I think this could be a win. Our scurvy dogs managed to get on top of him, but to really make sure that he doesn't come back, we'll be chasing with our bats too. Once that's done, there aren't a whole ton of Skaven forces left. We'll still have to be careful. And oh my gosh, my dogs, they get caught up on this brood horror here. And Throt does manage to come back. Not a great situation. But another volley from my handguns look like they're going to do pretty well. Silastra still healthy. We've chased off the Giselles. And I think we should be able to get him off the field again. He's actually taking a lot of damage from these handguns. And we have a lot of ammo left to deal with him here. And there we go. That's a second route on Throt. So that's very nice. We still have our dogs too. He's very close to the edge of the map. And Silastra can throw down a melee attack debuff on the single entities here to deal with them. I think we should be good. We might have pulled off a miracle. We'll throw down more debuffs. Make sure these guys don't kill Silastra. And with Throt off the field, we're in an excellent position. We just have to make sure Silastra doesn't die, really. Meanwhile, our scurvy dogs have done well. They've chased off all the Skaven forces along this side. The brood horror is actually routing now. And if we can get this plague priest off too, then we're golden. Now, this brood horror, we definitely don't want it to come back, or at the very least, if it does come back, we want to make sure that we're shooting at it with our handguns, our flying handguns. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to bring them real close and then just focus firing the brood horror. The assassin is out too, and to keep him running, we'll shoot him with our handguns, Silastra. Now in the middle of zombie polearms will mean that she's pretty safe. And we get a win! Nice, so... yeah. We did it! We rushed the Skaven, and I'm actually amazed how well these deck dropper handguns did. They annihilated Throt. On top of that, our scurvy dogs did really well as usual with some good distraction play. And then we just barely managed to win that frontline fight. The bombers, even with their nerfs, they still did well. They got taken out by a lot of the firepower here and the dogs. But we still managed to pull through. And I think really the heroes here are these deck dropper handguns. Oh my gosh. They did extremely well. So this next match is up against Reginald Puggington. He is playing the Vampire Counts. It's not a matchup that I very much enjoy, but I think we have a decent build here. We're set up to deal with Graveguard with our animated Hulks. They can help versus Cavalry too. And it looks like, let's see, there's only 3 bat units and a Strigoi Vampire Lord. Means that our air game is actually pretty strong here. Black Coach can get peppered away by our Gunnery Wights. Our bats should be able to defend pretty well, and without cavalry, I think our animated Hulks are actually pretty beastly here. So I'm excited for that. Our bats can face off against his bats, just trading out evenly to do well, and our handguns will be firing in on them too. Looks like some of them are trying to retreat though. That's fine. And let's see here. These bats will delay these ones. That way our guns can focus on the right-hand side to deal with the Strigoi Lord. Meanwhile, some Crypt Ghouls will be happy cycle charging them with animated Hulks. And we'll also advance some of our zombies here. Now, we're going to heal some of our Fel Bats because we want to distract the air as long as possible. And looks like that Vargulf is moving in a bit aggressively. Let's see if we can take him out. Move in our Gunnery Wights to deal with the Black Coach. And oh no, it looks like the Vampire Lord landing on my animated Hulks. A little bit of a rough situation, not the worst. Yeah, and I think we'll be just fine. Crypt Ghouls over here can get hulked. Have some zombies moving in too. Crypt Ghouls over here will so you can't really block them with the summon, but we have animated Hulks at the ready. And what do we want to focus fire? I think the Strigoi Lord and this Vargulf. Our White Kings will be moving up and seeing what can they roast with their abilities here. It looks like not much. Let's pull them back, and nice. We should very much be able to take out the Vargulf here now. We do. lose some space here, and we get a zombie summoned in on top of us due to this nice necromancer play. And our White Kings really want to be able to use their abilities, but there's not a whole lot of places. That Vargulf too is holding out very well, and sort of just refusing to die here. Necromancer, sort of running circles here. Not the best situation. Now our guns are going to start getting compromised, which is not great at all. Not great at all. White Kings are moving in though. These Graveguard are a pain too. And can we deal with them? I'm not sure. Vargulf is sort of a priority though. And we want to start using these Scab's Grass onto these Crypt Ghouls for certain. Some 2 well-placed Scab's Grass there should work out pretty well. And we can also summon some more guns here. Help us out. Let's see, we really want to deal with this Strigoi Vampire Lord. Oh man, and another summon does come down. It's quite painful. We still have, let's see, some animated Hulks here to deal with the Grave Guard, so we're going to be bringing them in. And how are my White Kings doing? They're only doing okay, but not excellent. Balance of power is in our favor though, and I have no idea why that's the case, but we'll keep trucking on. We have our animated Hulks engaging on the Grave Guard now. Should be able to start taking them out, but our guns are just about all shut down now. We still have a unit of handguns here. I think with the remaining firepower, we're just going to have them try shooting this the Vampire Count's Lord here. He does land in onto some handguns there, but we have Noctilus coming in to help. The Gunnery Whites are going to give ammunition to each other to increase their damage. The more powder ability is very powerful, and that should help out in this fight. Putting in decent damage onto that Vargulf. Not amazing. And oh no, we've run out of another unit of thing. And one of our monstrous infantry here. So there's really just one left, and that is extremely unfortunate. It looks like we're going to have to focus a lot on our single entities now, with very few troops left, but it looks like our zombies are still holding relatively well. This Necromancer, we're going to try sniping him with our double White Kings. But let's see. Oh man, that's a lot of Graveguard. They're getting surrounded, and I think this is likely gonna be game. Our Crypt Horror play looks like it didn't pan out. Despite the efforts from our White Kings, I think they're gonna have some trouble here. But we're not gonna give up yet. We're going to throw down some more AoEs onto these Graveguard units here. Getting in okay damage. But I don't think it's enough. Let's see, we want the zombie summon too. But, oh man, this is looking real rough. Oh man, we have some Fellbats here too. There's not much that they can do though. And another breath attack comes down the pipe onto my zombie pole arms. They do okay, not great. Graveguard are still healthy, and this Lord is going to begin cycle charging. So, we're going to see if our White Kings here can actually engage on top of them. We do still have a few infantry, so not all hope is lost, but this Black Coach is going to be pretty rough. Some more ammunition on my White Kings should help too. But I think a lot of the, this does seem like a loss, and I would say, I think it came down to us not being aggressive enough with our Scab Scrats here. But, let's see, we do have a final summon in from Noctilus. Going to try sniping out the Vargulf here. But let's see, with Graveguard support and a healthy Strigoi Lord, I think that's GG. So GG, well played to our opponent. And a long wait. But not enough. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at the animated Hulks and see how they did. I was expecting Graveguard here, but this time it was just the usual standard Crypt Ghoul, which has given us problems before. You can see they got decent damage, but they managed to push through. There were actually Graveguard units, but I'd say I probably mismicroed with my animated Hulks a bit. in that these Graveguard managed to live. As for the monstrous troops, I had nothing to really pin them down. Even though our handguns were able to fire quite a bit, they stayed nice and safe away. And then just a few more summons in. That was GG for us. So that ends our tournament run today. But there's always next time.